and welcome to This Thing Called Life, a podcast dedicated to sharing stories of giving, kindness, compassion, and humanity. Your host, Andi Johnson, will guide you through powerful stories of organ, tissue, and eye donation from individuals, families, and healthcare teams whose experiences will inspire you. Every act of giving, no matter how small, has the potential to change a life. We're so glad you're here. Now, let's dive into the show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to This Thing Called Life. I'm your host, Andi Johnson, and I want to thank you so much for listening as we talk about all of the different aspects of organ, tissue, and eye donation. And we get to talk to the people who are a part of the donation ecosystem and have been impacted by it. We're talking to donor family members of our donor heroes, living donors, caregivers, and those who are in the thick of it each day doing their part to make miracles happen and second chances possible. I have the honor today of having two wonderful people with me. They are a mother-daughter duo who just, every day, I'm just inspired and in awe of them. I'd like to welcome Miss Jennie Wright and her beautiful daughter, Siri Imani. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here today. How are we doing?
Wonderful.
Yes, yeah. I bet. So, Jennie, let's start with you. You have a story to tell. You have a connection to donation, and I just would love for you to share that.
Sure. Well, I am a double lung transplant recipient. June 11th, 2023.
Wow.
I received 2 lungs from, a wonderful donor. And it totally changed my life. It actually gave me a second chance.
Right.
I have sarcoidosis, and as a result, my lungs were severely damaged, which caused pulmonary hypertension. So before donation, I had a backpack that had my oxygen. I had a fanny pack that had a heart pump. I was in right heart failure because of the condition of my lungs. So I pretty much, was just at a point where I needed something, I was beyond kind of the medical intervention at that time. There was nothing else that they could do with me as far as the lungs that I had. Right. So transplant was my second chance.
How long did you wait?
Ooh. Well, it took me a year to get listed. And that's because I was in and out of the hospital so much in that last year. So just trying to complete the testing was difficult. But after being listed, it took almost 2 years. And there was one time when I was called right before, and I was in the hospital, and they wouldn't transplant me because I was sick. I had a lung infection. And then the next call I got was actually the call. And I was home, and I was well enough to be transplanted.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's almost as if with that waiting process, the stars have to be perfectly aligned.
Yeah.
Because you have to be, in order to be at the top of the list, you got to be the sickest of the sick.
Right.
But you can't be too sick.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So I know that's a difficult, had to be a difficult balancing act, if you will.
Yeah. And I remember that day, that first call was April 20th, 2023. I was in the hospital. And, with the condition of my lungs, I contracted a lot of infections. So I had aspergillosis, and I can't remember the name of the other infection now, but I had these 2 infections that had become antibiotic resistant. So we were really getting to the point where we were running out of antibiotics. And then I'm a hard match. I'm O positive, and I have high antibodies. Yes. So it was, when I got that call, it was like, okay, here we are, but after they kind of talked with the transplant team, they're like, we don't feel comfortable doing it, that if we were to transplant you now, then it will actually kill you. Like the infection that you have now will probably kill you because of all the medications that they give you to suppress your immune system. And I was a mess.
I can only imagine.
I pretty much spent like that day crying in the hospital.
Right.
And I had amazing nurses. University of Cincinnati, step down unit. They kept me alive, honestly, for a year, and they were amazing. And the nurses were awesome. They checked on me, they comforted me, but that was a hard day. But ultimately, I knew and believed that at some point this was going to happen. My faith really helped to sustain me, and I feel like God showed me a moment on the other side of this, and I just kind of held on to that. And I'm like, all right, so maybe this isn't it. Maybe, it's going to happen at some point. And then 2 months later, it actually did.
Yeah. So you knew. You knew
yeah.
God had you. And your beautiful daughter.
Yes.
And support system had you.
Yes.
So tell me what did that mean for you? Let me switch gears. Siri, what did it mean to you to be able to walk this path with your mom? To see the whole...
I was so happy for her. I think at that time, everything was just in this is what has to be done mode. Just that whole time of our life, it was like, this has to be done. But after, like she said, that journey was a long one. So she was sick for a long time.
Right.
And her life was just limited for a long time. And then once we even found out about organ donation, that was then another waiting period.
Right.
And throughout that time, her body was declining. And she was losing her quality of life daily. And to the point that she just ended up in the house all the time, not really around people, not social. And as her daughter, I'm just watching it happen. So it really sucked. But the moment we got the call and it was time to do it, I'm like, okay, this is we was talking about all the time. On the other side of this, you got to figure out where we going first? What do you want to do first? We used to talk about all the time. What meals we eating first? What country we traveling to first? What's the first thing you want? You want to go bungee jumping? And we used to just try to keep our spirits up saying it. But the moment that the call happened, we were like, okay,
this is happening.
Right. I had to just switch in the gear. Okay, we're about to do this. And
so what was your first meal?
I think I cooked it.
Oh, okay.
I think I cooked it. Or no, because you were still in the hospital. Your first meal home I cooked.
Yeah.
Your first meal at the hospital.
Yeah, your first meal. Yeah.
It was probably you telling me to bring you something.
I don't remember what it was. I kind of, in the beginning, there were a lot of things that just kind of...
The blur.
We're definitely a blur. And I always say that Siri has to kind of tell that story because, one, I do strange things under anesthesia. My body, I'm one of those people who gets really loopy. I don't know if you've ever seen those, those people who go to the dentist and end up goofy. So I was that way for
days.
Yeah.
And they told us what happened too. They were she might not understand anything, but she.
Yeah. When I think about it, when I woke up, I thought I was dead.
Oh.
Just all kinds of. Yeah.
But I'm the only person she could talk to. Right. She's like,
right.
Who are these people?
And I didn't want to tell everybody else because I knew that I had the surgery and I was like, but so you were out of it. I was. Right. But I was so funny. I have to say, I was.
We had to keep her back in reality. I'm like, we're here, Mom. Everything's fine. And then one day, once the anesthesia wore off, she just was like, that was crazy, wasn't it?
And I'm back.
Right. Really.
Just a little bit,
It seems like, and I don't know if this was how it was as you were in this, in this moment, but it seems like you brought a little levity and a little bit of sense of humor just to kind of
always
to balance all of it. I mean, you have to, right?
Can't even help it. Yeah.
So Siri, you're an artist, you're a creator, you're an activist, you're a cultivator, you're all these things, which I bet you get from your mom.
Absolutely.
Much of that from your 100%. How did this journey influence your music and the work that you do from a creative standpoint?
Yeah, for sure. I think it honestly influenced everything. My mom and my grandma influenced a lot for me, but their journeys also influenced me too. I think on the philanthropic side, like I saw how easily just life could turn on anybody.
Yeah.
And that's people with the best support systems, people with no support system. And I think a lot of our work with people experiencing homelessness just came from the understanding early that life could take you anywhere, no matter what type of person you are, no matter where you come from. You could end up in a place where you just need people. And it made sense early, like why that was important for people who do have things to help people who don't, you know, before we even went through it. But as we started going through it, I think that just made it make even more sense. And then on the music side, I'm really just reflecting what I'm going through. So when we first find out about diagnosis, I have music that's about that too. When
You documented.
I documented everything, like and in music and in media too. Like I already knew like this story. We didn't know how it was gonna play out, but I knew that our story was like something I never wanted people to forget or be erased or anything like that. I was always planning on making sure like people knew who my mama was, people knew who my grandma was, and really remembered because they made it clear who they were in their lifetimes. But the way history goes, if it's not constantly being reminded to people, it gets lost. And I think with my music, that was my main thing. Like, no, this is where I come from. These are the people who did this, and these are people who existed in real time and did all these amazing things.
So do you have a special memory of your grandmother you could share?
I have many special memories, but I think it's funny that we were talking to Rudy about the CSO because that's one of my favorite memories with my grandma. She was fresh off of around a chemo and she was finally able to come outside. Mom was sick as well. And then my aunt was also sick. And all of them, it kind of just the way time worked out, everybody was okay enough to be at a performance. And it happened to be the CSO big festival. And my grandma, oh my goodness, my grandma has been going to the CSO since she was a kid. So she was like, Siri, you're doing, like she would tell everybody, like, my Siri girl, would you believe?
Oh, my Siri girl.
Has a whole festival with the CSO. She was so excited leading up to it. And then the day of, and shout out to CSO because they were incredible. Like they made her feel like a celebrity.
Absolutely.
Gave her a dressing room. She had like somebody who walked her back and forth. Gave her all type of stuff. She had like a rider, like whatever she wanted, she was getting. And then she got to watch us perform. She got to watch me perform. And I just remember I could see them like in the back, and I'm just watching them in their three chairs. And my grandma I know that was probably one of her greatest moments. So that's probably one of mine.
Because she mentioned it all the time. Like she talked about it all the time.
No, that was one of my favorite moments.
She was so proud.
Yeah, she was so
happy. Yeah.
She was
Oh
very
my
happy.
goodness. Oh my goodness. God bless her.
Definitely my favorite.
I love that. I love that. So what message, we've had these conversations, Siri, Jennie, we've been working with you because really it's important that we connect in an authentic and just better way with communities of color. And we've worked with you in that way. You've done such an amazing job at just really helping us, just have a better, deeper, more important conversation around the topic of organ donation, specifically how it impacts the Black family. What would you like to share with others, particularly in the Black community, after just living through this experience?
A believer out of me. I was definitely that person who was like, should I put organ donation on the you're just surrounded by so much misinformation. And then also you grow up, especially in the Black community, you grow up with a natural distrust for the medical system. Because for a long time, it really
rightfully
worked against us. Exactly.
Absolutely.
So you really don't know. I mean, besides having like a preconceived idea of how it works, you don't have a reason to expand outside of that. And my reason came with her wake up call and her like having to go through that and that being our only option for her still being here. And, I think what I would say, my message is I hope for a lot of people it can be recognized before a situation becomes drastic. I know so many people, specifically in our neighborhood, peers, family members who whether it's their fault or not, down to diets, down to schools, down to
Yeah.
education, down to everything, bodies are being poisoned
Yes.
all the time, and
Yes.
specifically in the Black community. A lot of us, by the time we hit in mid-30s, we're dealing with a ton of health issues, or we have a ton that are rising. I don't want people to have to, I had to educate myself, and I know she did more than anybody, but the education process that you have to go to even know your options, doing
Right.
that in the midst of being sick, like, that's what I would
lot.
never wish on anybody. If you can
Yeah.
educate yourself ahead of time, even if you still have that distrust, that's fine. I do too. I still have that distrust. But I do know what this did. I do know what this did. And I know what it can do from seeing, once at the moment I stepped into that world of organ donation, that's when I was able to see, like, okay, this is something that's actually saving people's lives. And then it saved her life, literally.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's my message. I encourage people, don't even take it from me or anybody else. Actually find out, because you will get the answers that you're looking for, and preferably before you need them.
Right.
Is the key.
It's really about activating your agency.
Yeah.
Right. On the front end, rather than when you get to crisis mode, but really just
Exactly.
having that self-awareness and understanding of your health, your family history, health history, and just conditions that we know impact the Black community at a much higher rate, and really taking charge of that, and being proactive, and just, being healthier, making better decisions, which I think is so important. So,
And I want to say something on that,
absolutely.
because when I was growing up, my grandmother, who was from the deep South, from Moultrie, Georgia, born in 1915, she would tell us, like, don't put, yes to organ donation on your driver's license. She's like, don't do that, because if you get in a car accident, you go to the hospital, then, they'll take your organs and, give them to someone white. That's literally, the thought. Now, of course, we know that did happen.
Right.
And it did happen in the Deep South. So she had valid reasons for believing that, but, here we are, 2024, and, it's, we have to kind of cast off some of those things. And even though they were very valid and probably did, protect people at some point, we're not there, know. We're not here, but we're not there.
Right.
So, I think our parents, our grandparents, our ancestors did the best that they could to protect us with the information of the things that they had, in their lifetimes. But that was something that when I really thought about that, I'm like, wow, that's kind of a disservice that,
Yeah, and it sticks in generations. Like
It
that,
does.
you're
It
not the
does.
first person to share that.
Yeah.
I have a really good friend who's an executive in the health space here in Cincinnati, and she said, "Well, we were always told, do not put that on your license."
Right.
And she said it really didn't dawn on me until, and she's like, I'm ashamed to say this, but it didn't dawn on me until I was like in doing this work that I'm like, okay, no, this isn't true.
Right.
But it's such a complicated history that we have in America here with race and healthcare and, the criminal justice. I mean, so many things in our society. And it's just, it's hard to kind of break that down so we can build it back up so that it is serving us in the way that it served you and your family.
Exactly.
But it's very complicated. So, what would you say to your donor family?
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. And that's not even adequate. There's not words to really say, how amazing they were. I really thought a lot about my donor and their family, and how hard it must have been to make the choice to donate their loved one's organs, because one, they're knowing that they're having to let go of that person.
Right.
But the fact that I hope they got solace knowing that, they give someone else an opportunity to live and to, continue on. But just, thank you. Thank you for your selflessness. Thank you for being able to see beyond the moment, beyond your grief. Just thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Right. It's such a miracle. And like, we never know who our angel is going to be. Right. And I reflect on when we first met, probably shortly after your transplant, and seeing you then and seeing you now.
Yeah.
I mean, you absolutely are glowing. Like you really are. So just to see this transformation,
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know, just really.
And it's who she's always been. She just couldn't be this person.
Yes.
Like, this made complete sense.
Oh my gosh. So what are the things you get to do now that you couldn't do?
Wow.
Where do we start?
Yes. Well, one, I can walk around.
Yeah, without all this heavy equipment.
I lost 50 pounds worth of equipment. I can walk my dog. I can walk around my yard. I can walk a mile. I can go for a walk in the neighborhood. I can go out. Now, there's certain things that I still, have to be careful about.
Right.
But, I can go see my daughter perform. And that was one of the things that used to hurt so much. Siri would have these amazing opportunities and, get to open for really cool acts. And then I couldn't be there, or I would pack all my stuff up and try to go see her, and there's like no parking close by. So there have been so many times where I would literally be driving home crying, like I couldn't go because there was nowhere close enough.
And when you had your Velitri, like the Velitri heart pump, she had to change it every 24 hours at the exact same time for the medicine to be administered to her heart. And if she missed it by like 4 minutes, if the machine malfunctioned, if anything went wrong, she had to go straight to the hospital. So it was just anxiety around her coming out and being outside anyway. And she basically had like a curfew due to the heart pump as well.
Yeah.
So I know you talk about your tribe because when I listen to you perform. So who is your tribe?
That is a combination of like my best friends, people I've known over 10 years, family members, all her kids, basically. Yeah. It's all extended family, but it's really my chosen family. We're all artists. We formed a collective that basically works as like an artist incubator. It's also a place where we just all link up and we create. We help other artists get booked. We do our philanthropic endeavors. All of that is it's just a family.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she sits at the head of it.
And they all wrap their arms around you.
Oh yeah. They don't play about her. They do not play about her.
And I will say, like, when I was in the hospital, when I first came, I say home, but we were staying in Columbus for
my friends were up there.
They were. If Siri had to go, and she took off all this time, to be my caretaker and my caregiver. But when she did have things that she absolutely had to go to, they were there cooking meals for me, helping me with my medicine.
They had like little hourly reports. She's fine. She just had her medicine. She went back to sleep. She tried to walk. We told her not to. She went back to bed.
They were amazing, and I'm just like, they're adults, but like these kids,
I know exactly
are taking care of me,
yes.
and they were amazing. They just,
they're
treated me
with
so much care and so much love, and
they still do. Like, because she can't be around. Like, we can't have people just all around her, and everybody just their first instinct is, "Oh my God, Jennie, come here!"
I know.
When I say my friends will step up,
they're like,
they're
boxing them out.
But she,
absolutely,
because I'll be performing and I'll be watching, and I'm like, I can't stop everybody. I'm usually the one arm barring people. I'm like,
literal arm bar.
I'm the bad guy. I get it, but y'all not gonna touch my mama.
I know.
You see, like a negative COVID test or something.
That's right. I need documentation.
They're the same way though. Like they do not play about her at all. at all.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I always feel that. Like when my instinct is always to hug you, and then I'm like, you don't.
And I'm a hugger.
I know.
To be fair, she's the one who's like, hi. Arms up, and I'm like,
worst.
no.
And that's probably the hardest part.
I know.
Even post transplant, it's like I take calculated risk when I hug. I'm like,
Right.
yeah, let's do it.
She sneaks them in.
I do.
As soon as I'm not looking, she's sneaking hugs in.
Yes.
It is ridiculous.
It's so funny because I can't remember where we were, but Siri went inside the building and people kind of know, they're like, okay, Siri's gone.
We go in.
Let's sneak a hug.
Right.
So Siri comes back out and she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what? She's like, you look like you've been hugging people. I'm like, wait, what do you mean I look like I've been hugging people?
You look like you've been social.
But yes.
Oh my goodness.
But
she's protected. Very protected.
Very much so. Because if anyone
else
else is around, any of her friends, it's no hugs for me.
Yeah. So as we talked a little bit about progressing this conversation around organ donation, specifically in the Black community. How do you think we continue this so that we get to a place where we aren't seeing so many Black Americans dying too soon from conditions that could be prevented?
I think honestly, even the partnership that we created, I think that's so beneficial to just combating the misinformation that you naturally grow up with. You have all these associations, and when things went wrong, we don't have too many about things going right.
Right.
I've never seen someone in my family or community get an organ donation transplant that saved their life until it was my mom's. I'm sure it happened many times, but it's not something we really talk about.
We don't talk about it.
People go into the hospital and then, they got better or something, or they didn't. And you never hear about the in-between, step-by-step, how this happened. You just find out whatever the fate was. I think this was the first time, I saw it. And I think once you see it, you don't unsee things. Once you learn something, you don't unlearn things. Once we had to educate ourselves on what even is organ donation, what does this mean for you, your body, the other people, that's when you really start to be able to debunk a lot of the misinformation. You're like, okay, that actually doesn't make sense. Like even the ID card, when I was thinking about just the fact that the doctors that we met throughout that time, I'm like, the whole point is saving a life.
Right.
It really doesn't make sense for it to go like that when you think about it,
when you really think about
especially
the
right now.
process.
Like what my great grandma was saying at that time, completely understandable. Respect, honestly, was probably saving lives by saying that. I think now as things change, our narrative and what we say to each other has to change too, because it's no longer accurate.
Right.
At this point, we do each other a disservice by saying that, because some of us really will be needing this, and it won't be until we're in the thick of illness or in the thick of tragedy, grief, whatever it is, that you're trying to figure out and navigate your options. And it's just way more harmful, in my opinion.
Right.
So, I think these stories being put in the forefront helps.
Do you feel like now, having experienced this, that it's almost an obligation for you to continue to share and with the people around you, and that you impact and influence every day to continue to, I won't say set the record straight, but to set the record straight about what this means. And
I don't want none of them to lose anything like I was about to lose. I don't want anybody to experience that. I don't want anyone's journey of sickness to be prolonged because they didn't know what was going on. Or they didn't know their options. Like this was not, she made it the best because her mind is strong.
Yes.
Her spirit was strong, and the people around her were not going for it. But not everybody has that. And for people who don't, these type of illnesses can break you. They really can break you, and they can break everyone around you. And when there is an option for you to not experience that, if I know about it, I'm going to tell you. You don't ever have to listen to me, but I'm going to tell you, you don't have to experience this. Your loved ones don't have to experience this. And y'all can have a whole nother life on the other side.
That's right. Yeah. That's, I think, for me and just doing this work, what has always hurt my heart so much is you see families, Black families in particular, who they lose a father, a husband who might be 40, 50 years old because he had diabetes. He had a family history of diabetes, and really just for whatever reason, it always we don't always put ourselves first or our health. And then you look up and this dad has now passed away from something that was preventable.
Exactly.
And it's just not, again, just knowledge is power, and we can't just because we want to act like or pretend like it's not happening. This is impacting, our health.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to just be having more honest conversations like this. And just, I think sometimes as a people, we have a tendency to not talk about the things that may be hurting us or bothering us because we want to be strong and, but we have to have these conversations because I think the silence it's just killing us,
It is.
So.
And I also think having doctors that really listen to you.
Yes.
And because I didn't know organ donation was a possibility for me. When I first started getting sick and life became a little hard, and before, the oxygen and all that, I remember telling my friend, I was like, girl, I'm going to give me some new lungs. Joking, but my friend who is one of those ultimate cheerleaders, Nicole, she's like, girl, amen, we getting some new lungs. Okay, and this was years before I was even sick. But, when I was really, sick, I didn't know that was a possibility until my doctor, Dr. Elwing, Jean Elwing at UC, she, was like, I think you would be a good candidate for transplant. And I was like, really? Is that, I didn't really even honestly at that point think of it as an option, even though I did years and years before, jokingly. So it was really, being in the right place at the right time, ending up in the ER the time that she was on rotation and whatever. But just her, listening to my story, seeing where I was, and recommending me for transplant to Ohio State. So, I had seen many doctors over the years just, to try to maintain my health, even though I knew I was had a condition that would decline. But there wasn't anyone who even said anything about transplant.
Isn't that
before.
Interesting?
Yeah, it really is.
That's disheartening to hear that, but I hear it quite a bit.
Yes.
And that's, I think, goes back to this point of just, it's like we have to be our best advocate for ourselves. And that requires us doing research to understand, because there are medical professionals out there who won't proactively provide that information, which I think that's a dynamic that has to change in this country.
Yeah.
It has to. Yeah. So is there anything else that you would like to share?
I guess for me, organ donation has been just like a miracle. It has been an opportunity for a second chance to, continue to see Siri do amazing things, to just love on my family, to love on the community, to just try to have a really meaningful, purpose-driven life. I think you really can't go through something like this and be the same person.
Right.
I don't see how you could be.
Right.
And I think I had a pretty nice life before, but I don't want to waste any time doing anything that doesn't have some kind of purpose, that isn't spreading love, that isn't, just meaningful. So I think having an opportunity to do all the things that I wanted to do before within reason, without hugging, but that's huge, you know, and just being grateful and just really blessed, and I will say that I feel like God has had his hand on our family. I know that the time that I was sick was very hard on Siri, particularly during my surgery. And I just feel like, God brought brought the right people into our lives to hold her up, to hold me up. And so I'm just so very grateful. And it's important, that network of people that you have around you. You know, they say you have to have one caregiver in order to get a transplant. But you need more than one
You
person.
had 13.
Yeah, at least, you know, and it's just so important to support that caregiver also. Like, you know, I'm not the only one, you know, who needed someone to kind of take care of them. So we were really blessed in that,
That's where my love for organ donation comes in, because it saved your life, but if people know me, I don't exist. I don't think I could exist without her. That's just not how it works. So I can't imagine like what my life would have been like if this wouldn't have happened at all. It would not have made sense at all. So I'm grateful. I'm very grateful. I feel like my purpose was saved too in the process, and it's the best thing in the world to watch her on a daily basis after the 3 years of just seeing her not be able to be this person.
She's thriving.
Yeah, like can you imagine this? I can never see it again, but I'm grateful to be on the other side of it. It's incredible.
it is.
It's incredible.
You know, you have such a beautiful testimony, and I want to say that, and I mean that with everything I have. And you know, we appreciate you all, you know, and you, Siri, utilizing your platform and just, you know, your creative genius to really tell this story, because there's so much power in the stories, and for people to see people who look like them, who have experienced something like this, and to know, oh, I can get through this.
Absolutely.
I can do this. And I know there's just like, I see like this generation of women, and obviously your grandmother and great grandmother kind of being at the top of that, but just strong, influential women, and just doing so much in the community. And so I just want to express my gratitude and thanks that we've been able to connect this way, but just for everything that you're continuing to do and blessing people in the way that you do every day. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I want to thank my guests again today for just a wonderful conversation. And I'd like to leave you with this. Today, there are more than 104,000 people who are waiting for a second chance. They want to live a full and healthy life, but they can't because they need a life-saving transplant. And today, 17 of those people will die today because that life-saving organ did not become available. You have the power to be a part of the solution, and here's how. If you're not a registered donor, take the time to do research, and research that is accurate. You can visit reputable sites like AOPO.org or networkforhope.org to get information that is true. I would also encourage you to talk to someone who has been through this journey, either as organ recipient, their caregiver, someone who has gone along the journey as being a donor family. It's really important just to understand the impact and get that factual information. If you've thought about registering to be an organ, tissue, and eye donor, you can do so at registerme.org or networkforhope.org. You can also learn about what it means to be a living kidney donor. Almost 90,000 of the people on that national wait list need a kidney. And what a tremendous way to impact another human life while you're still here. So I just want to say again, thank you for this opportunity. Again, thank you to Jennie and Siri for being with us today. And I just want to remind you to please be kind to yourself and to others. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to This Thing Called Life. Remember, every act of giving, no matter how small, has the potential to change a life. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts so you never miss a new episode. We'd truly appreciate it if you could share, like, or leave us a review to help us grow.